Meeting to order. Item number 1 on our agenda is introductions. So we'll have the committee members introduce ourselves, and then I'd like to have those of you who are joining us online introduce yourselves also. I'm Jeanette Shelton, I'm the vice chair of the committee. I represent District 3, and I have a background in disability management at the University of California.
My name is Carolyn Smith. I am the 2014 Veteran of the Year for the 71st District in San Diego County. I am 100% total and permanent disabled veteran injured in a roadside bombing in Iraq. I represent Joel Anderson's district, and I'm happy to be here.
Susan Addison.
Oh,
Is my mic on? I think I can. Yeah. Susan Madison, District 3, at large member.
Yes. Thank you. And this is Todd Hood. Unfortunately, I'm off camera, but I am the staff liaison for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and I'm the countywide ADA Title II coordinator as well as Chief Privacy Officer.
This is Katie McKnight. I'm with the Department of Human Resources here to support the committee.
And then those that are online dialing in.
Hello, everyone. I am Lieutenant Cole. I am a lieutenant with the ADA unit with the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm new here. I'm Sergeant Pike. I'm also with the San Diego Sheriff's Department. I will be taking over for Sergeant Wiesner. He has retired, so I will be taking his place.
Well, welcome, Sergeant Pike. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Allie Clendenin with the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial Counties, and I'm a project manager of special programs and initiatives.
Wonderful, Allie. Thank you for dialing in.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have anybody from the committee who needs to have consideration of request to participate remotely. So moving on to voting on the February minutes.
I make a motion to vote on, oh, you need to ask.
You need to make the motion just to, you know, to.
So I make a motion to approve February meeting minutes as written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
I abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay, aye.
Thank you.
Moving on. Would anybody like to make a non-agenda comment? Okay. You?
In that, I would welcome the Sheriff's Department. If there are any updates that are not covered on the agenda, or any statements that you'd like to make with regard to the committee, this would be a fine time to share any updates as it relates.
So the only update we have so far, Todd, to share with you guys is before inmates that had CPAP machines, we would house them in a certain area. We have searched and tested out other options. We were able to find battery operated batteries, portable batteries that we can use. And that way inmates are not limited. They can be inmate workers and do various different things. So that's something new that we just started literally today. So.
Oh, Thank you for that update. Very good. Are there organizational updates as well? We saw that Sergeant Pike is replacing Sergeant Wiesner. Any other updates that you'd have organizationally?
Organizational wise, we do, our current captain, Gloria Soto Mesa, was promoted to commander, but she's still over the ADA. We do have a new captain. We will introduce him at our next meeting. His name will be Captain Williamson.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. So understanding that that there are always organizational changes, so we'll definitely welcome to hear those and of course have the committee meet the successors. So that's great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is updates to the administrative code.
So this, I'll just introduce for the good of the order. The clerk of the board had requested, there are certain boards, commissions, and committees that have in the administrative code that gives authority to the committee, to the board, commission, and committee. There are term limits that are part of the county administrative code, which is the law. The question is being presented to each board, commission, and committee that has term limits in their administrative code to request input from the respective board, commission, and committee so that the clerk of the board would be able to provide input to the Board of Supervisors as it relates to that change. So this is an opportunity for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities to provide input there on term limits, as well as any other considerations that you'd have for the administrative code.
So I was gonna make a comment on that if I could.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna read something really quick that is going to coalesce as to why term limits, in my perspective, would be a great idea. As you guys know, the establishment of the San Diego County Committee for Persons with Disabilities underscores the importance of representation and advocacy for individuals with disability in our community. This committee serves as a vital platform for addressing the needs and concerns of persons with disabilities, safeguarding against discrimination, and promoting equal opportunities for all. However, amidst the noble intentions and dedicated efforts of committee members, the absence of term limits poses potential challenges to the committee's effectiveness and inclusivity. While continuity and experience are valuable assets, they must be balanced with the need for fresh perspectives, diversity, and inclusivity with the committee. Introducing term limits for committee members can rejuvenate the committee's leadership, ensure greater diversity of voices and experiences, and foster innovation and responsiveness to evolving needs and priorities of persons with disabilities in our community. Term limits provide opportunities for new talents and perspectives to contribute, energize the committee's work, and enhance its relevance and impact. By implementing term limits, the committee can cultivate a culture of inclusivity, transparency, and accountability, empowering individuals with disabilities to actively participate in shaping policies, programs, and initiatives that affect their lives. Term limits not only promote democratic principles and fairness, but it also strengthens the committee's capacity to effectively address the complex and diverse needs of persons with disabilities in San Diego County.
Is this something, just procedurally, is this something we're asked to vote on today or because we have term limits? And it's a question of whether we would want to have them removed.
Right, exactly.
So if we don't want to have them removed, is there action that we take?
To provide input to the clerk of the board on the committee's perspective as that relates.
I make a motion then that we continue with our term limits for the committee for people with disabilities.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Thank you. Let's see. Oh,
Next item on our agenda is the exciting bylaws. Which I know everybody's been waiting for. I think we're gonna put them up on the screen.
yes, I'll share that.
So I took on the task of kind of putting together our committee bylaws based on not only administrative code 74, but the fact sheet about this committee, and whatever other ordinances there are that relate to this. So this is definitely a work in progress. We wanted to talk about it a little bit today. And the committee has not seen this yet. But it's a work in progress, trying to put it into the language of A74. So I've got about 2 pages of that done. So I don't know if we just wanna,
I can
everybody take a look at it.
scroll through it.
So this would cover, this would, be our how-to of how we as a committee operate, and a reference for what our tasks are, what our duties are, what our responsibilities are not.
So the red is the changes, the black font is the stuff that you just pulled out of other documents.
That would be nice, but no.
Oh. All right.
So I had put together kind of a soup of the other things, and then Todd massaged it a little bit. And so let's put it in the language of A74. So A74
And A74
is the administrative code,
Or A74 is the board policy
the board policies, yes.
that governs boards, commissions, and committees. And there is a subsection of A74 deals with these, this is a sample of bylaws.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And so it starts out with Article 1, purpose and authority. So then everything that was written kind of gets fit under that. And then what is this committee for? Where does the authority for the committee come from? And so the red was 2 sections that were in A74 that had not been language in anything else I had already drafted into the initial draft. Yeah.
So for section C, I would add, in addition to, something about not wearing political pins, t-shirts and stuff like that.
It does say does not take part in or lend itself to political issues. But that doesn't cover.
I just wanted one more step because that may or may not have been an issue here or on other boards, or here specifically, that so it's easier to point to section C, so it's not as vague.
So it would say something like this includes wearing of political
Oh,
clothing or paraphernalia,
Yeah.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very side issue that I don't think we want to spend a lot of time on, but I'm not really clear on why there's committees, commissions, and boards. And I feel like, I could be wrong, I feel like could be a sense of pecking order,
No,
and that boards carry more weight.
no, actually, I've asked the clerk of the board what the difference was
Yeah.
several months ago. And they said they're all interchangeable. And it really, under A74, the actual topic is community advisory boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we were gonna just look at the first maybe couple pages of this and get a sense of how we may wanna proceed. I think our intent is for me to finish putting this in the language of A74 and then sending it out to the committee, and we can continue to work on it next month, when you've had a chance to take a look at it, yeah,
That would be.
in more detail.
Did it get emailed out to us? Did I miss that?
It will.
Okay.
I need a little more time to finesse it a little bit, and then we'll have time before, because it doesn't translate exactly, so we need to kind of work on that part of it.
Good.
Thank
But
you.
we're moving forward
Yes.
with having bylaws, so that's
So-
great.
Thank you for taking that task.
And I know you're gonna be doing that, but the purpose for me when I brought up bylaws a couple of months ago was for standardizing protocols.
Yes.
And I know that, I assumed that was your vision as well.
Mhm.
So that it's not just a repeat of admin stuff, but here's how we work as a committee.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Our guiding principles are,
Yeah.
rules are,
Is Robert's rules in there?
yes.
It is. Okay.
And I believe, I'm thinking that if committee members have certain elements that you'd like to include, I think providing those to Jeanette will be good, and then she can put it in and then have that discussion as well.
All right, moving on, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is Jessica, but I can see Jessica's not here at this moment, so should we table that?
I think we can move forward, and then when she comes, possibly take those items up.
The next item on our agenda is committee officer elections.
Similar to that, we may wanna hold that for Jessica, if we end up having at least a little more. And then if not, if Jessica doesn't make it, go ahead and we can get that item in.
Okay.
Do you want me to call that?
Next item is committee structure. The vacancies that we have we heard anything about and potential new
I've not
members?
heard anything, and I know we wanted to keep that on the agenda. I know that there was a statement several meetings ago about committee members reaching out to supervisors and requesting them to work to fill those vacancies, any vacancies. So I think the action item there is for everyone to continue to work to see if we can, one, find candidates who would apply, and then as well, two, to ask supervisors that have vacancies to endeavor to fill those.
Why don't we move to item 10, the county's ethics awareness fair, which is next week. And give Jessica a chance to get herself situated.
Okay, and thank you all for voting and making the decision to participate in the County of San Diego's Ethics Fair. things are moving along and it's coming up on next Thursday. So it will be next Thursday. And the event starts at 11:30, goes 11:30 to 1. And it will be in the center of the County Operations Center. So it's right just south of the Registrar of Voters building. And then it's actually right in front of what is the chambers and was our community or what was it called?
Cafeteria?
The cafeteria. Yes,
No longer a cafeteria.
yeah, which is no longer a cafeteria.
Do you happen to know, sorry, do you happen to know what the address is?
It is 50, I think it's
500.
5500 Overland. The challenge is, it's not like a regular street where all the buildings are. But when you get to the County Operations Center, you'll see all the numbers of the buildings are up on the top of the building. But it's actually gonna be outdoors. So it's out in the walkway, in the center walkway. So you'll be able to see that. If you come in on Overland, you'll come in and make that right into the County Operations Center. And then you'll see all the tables and everything. The tables will be delivered about 8:30 or so. But so if for those that want to get set up, you can be there about 10:30. And then be able to get the lay of the land, and then any handouts that we have, I'll bring the handouts that we've talked about. And speaking of handouts, one of those items is that Jeanette and Michelle had worked on are possible disability quiz questions. And so I've got those up on the screen and wanted to, one of the items for the committee to decide and to discuss and decide is how you want to deliver or how you want to distribute or use the quiz questions to interact and what some of the goals and objectives might be.
The way I've seen it done before is sort of a 5x7 card, and you have the question on one side and then the answer on this, you just hand them a card with the question on it, and then they can take their educated guess or not educated guess, as it were, and then the answer would be on the back.
Okay, and then they like a flashcard type
Right.
of thing, and we
Right.
can I can put that together so that we'll have that, and then they can get a pat on the back or a little mini Snickers, some
I
candy.
think somebody's going to Costco.
Not promoting,
Because if I'm
not
gonna do some questions, I want some Snickers.
Yeah, if you get it wrong, you get one. If you get it right, you get two.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Nobody walks away,
Or angry.
they were angry, yeah.
Who is the audience?
So great question. Thank you, Sue. So these are employees of the county that are on their break, on their lunch break. So during the lunch, we have the Ethics Awareness Fair. Well, this month is Ethics Awareness Month, and we have a variety of different activities all month long. It culminates on the 28th with this fair. And the idea or the concept is to help employees be more mindful about ethics, avoiding conflicts of interest, gifts and gratuities, as well as inclusiveness. And one of the, so there will be diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our Human Resources, as well as Sheriff. I believe Sheriff is going to be participating. And so different departments will participate, as well as some of our employee benefit organizations. So we're expecting about 25 to 30 different tables. And one of those will be the Committee for Persons with Disabilities. And the goal is for employees and departments to be more aware about the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, so that they know when they're looking to get some input around services, programs, and activities, or any initiatives or communication initiatives, that they can come to the Committee for Persons with Disabilities and get input, much like many of the departments have done over the past 2.5, 3 years or so. But we want to get more awareness about that your committee.
So is there going to be have we done this before? Do we have like a dog and pony show thing all put together that we get out and have a cloth and a poster and flyers? Do we have?
This is the first official outreach of for the Committee for Persons with Disabilities.
Well, good job.
I had a booth for Live Well 5K.
Sure.
And so I handed out some of the handouts that we'll have that describe the Committee for Persons with Disabilities. And then we also had some members attend the Live Well Advance conference that was at the convention center. So this will be the first, I guess, in a long time. I don't know. I can't say what happened before 2019, but definitely what we've been doing since.
Yeah, so who are you would be, I think, something, and I assume then we're gonna have a flyer saying, here's when we meet and here's our mission and that kind of thing.
Yes, I have that, and that's what I handed out at the 5K.
Right.
And so I'll send that around to everyone, so you'll see it again.
That's great.
I felt so proud the first time I saw it. I was like, oh, this is us, we do this.
So, in other instances that I have been on different boards, we have a cool opportunity on our first go to have at least some sort of imagery that shows varying or different types of disabilities, so that it's more connective to somebody walking by. Maybe like a picture of a fireman or a policeman or a military or a dog or wheelchair able, all of those things, because I think people visually connect with themselves in that reflective state. So instead of just having persons with disabilities, I would almost hope that we have imagery that shows just, you know how those shutter cameras, it's like the person starts out here and it's this and that, and have it almost be like a picture that transposes into all of these varying et al. Disabilities, so that people will be like, oh yeah, that's my aunt, that's my grandpa's like that, my neighbor's like that, this is like that. I think imagery for us is going to be very powerful on our first go.
This makes me feel like, oh, I wish we had finished our work with the DA, because we have not actually finalized.
You might want to turn your microphone. I don't know if people on the phone on the.
Okay. Testing. We had a deadline to give our feedback back to the district attorney's office on the draft they provided us on the update of the 2018 Elder Independent Adult Blueprint. And so even though I know it's public knowledge because we put the draft up on the screen, so it's not a secret that there is a draft revision in the works, but that's the type of imagery we could, be also using. And it would be really valuable to, with new chair and vice chairwomanship.
We haven't done the election.
Oh. Complete the work with the blueprint with the DA.
I just think that's a more connective tissue. Because it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be you looking at the image, even though you're looking at the image, that could be your family, that could be your. Somebody you love, somebody you don't like, you know, all of these things that garnishes that emotion that somebody's gonna stop. So I think we need to add imagery, I think that'd be important.
Lieutenant Cole, not to put you on the spot, but is there any way that we might be able to have blue envelope
That's
handout materials? This would be for the next Thursday's Ethics Awareness Fair. I don't know if you were aware of it, but I know that someone from the Sheriff's Department is planning to attend. So I wanted to ask about if there is would it be possible to have some giveaways from the Blue Envelope program?
We should be able to. Can you email me the information, Todd? And then I can reach out to the lieutenant assigned or that's over the blue envelope and see what we can do. But I don't see it being a problem.
Another phenomenal thing about that is that the blue envelope messaging is extremely inclusive and has both visible and invisible visuals of disability. And so, yeah, that very much benefits our committee's values.
Okay.
I have my when they had come that time to introduce that program, I have the lanyard. And I always make sure it's visible in my truck. It's almost like a safety catch. You know, yes, it really is like, and when I see it's kind of falling a little bit, I'm like, oh. So it's a comfortable thing to have around.
Ah,
It's a great program.
thank you. And I will send some information over to you, Lieutenant Cole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll set up the I'll be able to do the flashcards.
Okay. Were there any other questions that you think we should ask? And this is just like Googling disability.
Yeah,
cases.
I didn't know the vision of it. I always think shorter is better, so I didn't know if it was gonna be like 2 pages or just say, but I like the flashcard type idea, maybe in colored different index type cards. And I think that's good. I did think there were some that should be eliminated
Okay,
or changed. Should I just go through what I
sure.
I thought? I think number 1 is really big. I like it. And even though I know it, I had to sort of think twice about it. Because I'm always referring to 1 in 4 adults. Which is the common, it's a percentage, it's around 25% of the adult population who live with a disability. So the number's fine, but for my brain, it just translates easier to 1 in 4, or about 25%.
So if we change that to instead of numbers,
Or add it, I don't know, I'm just giving my.
I like the percentage.
Number 4, it's Chicago and then it's state and,
Yeah, that was,
yeah, so that's.
that one I think I wanna X out too. It was interesting to me because it seems so odd. But it doesn't match and it seems very like it's too much trouble to
Yeah.
try to finesse it.
But you know they're gonna ask, what does Chicago have to do with San Diego?
Yeah, I agree.
The terminology, I believe, is deaf or hard of hearing. The preferred language, which you see in number 7,
Mhm.
which is great. However, in number 10, it's deaf or hearing impaired.
Okay,
Should be consistent. I think we're
Yeah.
gonna use both of them. And I think again, the preferred is deaf, or hard of hearing.
good catch.
And then under A10, you have the same thing. Deaf/hearing impaired, so if you change. There's twice there in number 10. I think number 12 is good, and I think it should maybe go in order, but you're not gonna do them in order anyway, so that's, never mind. And then number 13, I agree with Michelle, I don't think it's accurate. And I think 14 is fine. But I think 13 should be eliminated.
I have a lot of feedback. I'm guessing, I don't know if I missed an opportunity to give feedback, so I apologize. If that's
No,
okay.
that's what we're,
Doing right
Could
now.
you
You wanna look,
move closer to the microphone?
Thanks.
you wanna look at my copy?
I came on those high today. When you refer to 1 in 4 individuals in the US living with a disability, is that 1 in 4 that are identified as having a disability? Because the one thing that I don't love about the question or the answer is that there are so many more people that in fact are individuals with a qualified disability that don't identify or are not formally recognized as so. So I don't want to perpetuate the myth that only those that are counted are recognized.
People with disabilities are typically not been in all the census. When you get a census, there's no way to identify. So it's projected typically on my understanding. And I think that's why you should also always have the where is this from? Kind of thing. So there's American community surveys, for instance, that are given to maybe 1,000 people. And then they project that to the whole community. Because they only do the big census every 10 years, and they only recently added disability to that version. So
Excuse me, this is Rakina. Just to address what Jessica's concern there, maybe just using the words, it is estimated that like 1 in 4 Americans have disabilities, and then that kind of helps lead the reader to there are probably more, but we can't pinpoint the number.
That match the way you feel about the question.
I'm fine with anything. I'm just. There'll never be a good way to do this. So when I've done disability awareness training, it's the commonality that I preach. It is everybody. How many of you know somebody, live with somebody, or are yourself a person with a disability? And almost 99% of the hands go up and the trainings are done. So it's not news and it's not separate, which is equal. It's us. This is about us. So however you want to express that.
How many people in the US? I mean, I'm okay with it.
yeah. I think it's an awareness that it's not just this small group of
Renegades.
people who are, them. It is us, yeah, it's us, it's not.
So we're gonna go with 1/4 or 25%.
Yeah, I think make it not a multiple choice like that, maybe maybe just list the answer as about 25%-ish.
I'm good with about 25% or 1 in 4. I like 1 in 4 because it's more personalized.
Yes.
The second question reads well, third question, great. I see the idea behind the fourth question, which is to show how it wasn't very long ago that there was a law against being disfigured, and I see great value in that question. If maybe we can rephrase it to be more relevant, but it's, not making that, not set on that. Use the term handicap, yeah, that word isn't appreciated anymore. Lucius, hey, close, look at me. Close. Sit. Look. Down. Down. Good job. Thanks. The one thing I question about number 10 is I'm sure that there are people who are diagnosed with both deafness or hard of hearing, as well as potentially something like autism, where direct eye contact would not be necessarily something you would do right off the bat. So I'm just gonna say what I think. I don't have solutions, but I'm open to solutions and I'm not set on anything. Okay. I don't see any mental health oriented questions in here. I'm seeing a lot of lean into sensory. I guess except for maybe the OCD question, but I think we could have something that recognizes that mental health is protected part of disability. Which of these is required for a service animal? No certification, no vestige.
It was interesting because the quiz that I got this from, I never like to start with a blank piece of paper. I like to start with, information and work on it. It gave the answer of wearing identification, and that got Michelle and I talking, and she said, because I had just put down, just cut and paste it, which is my favorite thing to do. And so that's why that note is there.
Yeah, 13 is D, you don't have to have a certification or a vest or a tag. And the questions that can be legally asked would be, in this case, not necessarily A, because it could be a miniature horse, but usually is the animal required because of a disability? Or is the service animal required because of a disability? And what task or service
Has the animal been trained?
Yeah, an animal been trained to perform. That's, this is very well done. Very well done. Thank you for this. And I think those are great questions. I would be open as well to having a question about specifically reasonable modifications as an educating tool. And another thing could be something about disability victimization as an educating tool. And I'd be happy to think that through some more if that's helpful.
Terrific. Anything else on this?
Well, the only other thing I realized is the person first paragraph that you put in there, person first language, really triggers, I think, why you don't use the word handicapped anymore. They go together. So I don't know if you want to combine them into one. It really is two different questions. But there's a whole list of don't use words. But the person first really overrides, I think, and explains that. And then in response to what Jessica said, I'm wondering if we want to lead off with, because it's really good, the definition of the ADA, which is very broad. It's at the beginning of our admin code, I think. I read it just today again. And it's physical or mental, blah, 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 blah. And so it's very concise, I think, about people's concept. Sometimes you need a frame of reference. I don't know if this is the time or place for that. That's my thing.
I like that a lot, and I think that utilizing both the federal definition and the California definition could be very useful. We could even ask a question like, what is the difference between the federal definition of disability and the California definition of disability, and give, some multiple choice with one of the correct with the correct answer being a significant limit, physical or mental impairment that substantially limits or just limits one or more major life activities. So the defining difference is the word.
Substantially.
Thank you. Yeah, substantially limits versus just limits.
My only add would be to would you all think about adding something about invisible wounds? Because I think everybody has had this problem. I have it very consistently. I park in disabled parking. I try not to, but I park in disabled parking and I get yelled at because apparently I'm not disabled. So
Mobility.
mobility,
Mobility.
right? I'm 100% disabled. Don't look it because it's all head to toe internal. So how can we craft a question about invisible disabilities?
Google it.
AI.
I wonder if it could be just something as simple as you can tell a person has a disability by looking at them.
Yeah,
Perfect.
bingo.
Then, true or false.
Yeah, we want to pull people in. It's not our job really to overwhelm with detail, and we're like the subject matter experts in a lot of ways, so I think we need to just pull people in is what we want. It's an awareness thing.
Engage and increase their
Engage, yes.
awareness, and
Yes.
if they go home and think about it, or
Yes,
look at somebody differently because of it, we've done our job.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Great discussion. So I will need to have the final questions so that I can make the
Okay,
make up the note
maybe at our
No cards.
debrief, we can talk about it a little bit more.
on Saturday, Friday, yes. Okay,
Let's see, going back to item 7, Jessica, do you have updates on disability rights and behavioral health services?
Yes. In a wild few weeks. We have ADA requests for IHSS clients in here. I certainly see the value of that in terms of disability rights and behavioral health. But I don't have much more to say about that. Except for, one of the things I learned being in the Behavioral Health Advisory Board is how important it is for members of any board, committee, or commission to be having an open dialogue with their supervisor's office that appointed them. And so I really went out of my way over the last couple of months to set a time to meet with Jim Desmond's office. I was appointed for this committee and wanted to fill him in on some of the work that we're doing and have done, and some of the issues that we're facing. And I didn't have any anticipation that someone from his team was gonna go and actually call around to address some of the things that we talked about, but one of the things we talked about was an issue with service animals in behavioral health settings and medical settings and things like that. Another thing we talked about were some of the challenges around care report and the expansion of Senate Bill 43, the expansion of grave disability, the implementation of SB 43, which are things we've discussed and will continue to discuss here. And then the third thing I brought up was a challenge with IHSS with the ADA reasonable modification. And I did hear back from his office that they went ahead and reached out directly to a number of departments, one of them being the county's aging and independence team, to, you know, let them know that they think this is really important. So I don't know what the final move is. Maybe this move is, maybe something I can defer to our other team members for, but like, do we know if this is something IHSS, Aging and Independent Services, is acting upon? I don't know the answer to that, but it would be nice to find out if that is an action item right now. Is that something staff can ask about, or?
If there is a form,
No, we know that there isn't a form, but I believe what this is referring to is what happens each year with my IHSS. And it's not just me, but I am here as a person with a disability interacting with systems within our county and you know, share my experience. But
I'm sorry, what is the question for AIS? What would be the question?
Yeah, so the
for
question
AIS?
would be, are they implementing new clients and annual packets for recertification have within them a very clear ADA reasonable modification request form that can be filled out by the recipient or one of the recipient's supporters, or you know, medical team, whatever, so that it's in the person's file what reasonable modifications they need to be able to succeed at the annual recertification, what paperwork, what are the deadlines, do they do multiple forms of communication, things like that, and more than what I just said.
Okay, so I wanna make sure I'm getting your answer
Yeah, so my
from
question
AIS.
is, since this came up as a topic of conversation over the last several months, and also been something that my supervisor's office has advocated for as well, does Aging and Independent Services have anything in the works right now in which they are going to or looking into providing an ADA reasonable modification form when new people intake and are approved for the process? So in the original welcome to the program packet and in the annual recertification packet.
Okay, so to see if there is a reasonable modification, a process for receiving reasonable modification requests.
And so that form would remain in the person's file so that when a new caseworker comes along, which happens very regularly, the new caseworker sees in their file what their reasonable modifications are needs, so that there's what their reasonable modification needs are, so that there's continuity of that process for the recipient.
Yeah, because what the new person doesn't know, the new person doesn't know.
It's not fair to the new person, it's not fair to the worker either.
Okay, well, I'll ask AIS to maybe visit the Committee for Persons with Disabilities and explain or to hear considerations for reasonable modifications, and then they'll be able to hear some of your recommendations about carrying that into someone's file, and they'll be able to respond as to how that works and if it can work.
That would be lovely, and then our other members could also give their feedback. Thank you, Todd.
No, fabulous.
So moving on from that, we are all clear that I am to produce some form of a rough draft for qualifying a disability checklist since, okay, great, I have not done that. And then as far as SB 43 and behavioral health and disability rights and behavioral health. So just as we have committed here to have a priority around the expansion of the definition of greatly disabled, along with the current implementation and of the care court process. The Behavioral Health Advisory Board has taken that on as their 2024 strategic priority, and the executive leadership team is essentially breaking us down into different committees that reflect some of our priorities, which are community engagement, criminal justice, and alcohol and other substance use disorders, as well as working specifically right now on how to incorporate, and this is being done with the county's community and engagement team, how to engage more lived experience voice in these stakeholder meetings, because there are some subcommittees that have been broken down that are called the SB 43 like stakeholder committee groups, and there's 4 groups. One is training and education, one is alternatives to the emergency department, there's 2 others. And there is not as much of a lived experience voice as the Behavioral Health Advisory Board has deemed is so valuable and so needed. So there's been that community engagement effort. Some of the interesting challenges right now with disability rights in behavioral health services is based around, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with the ACT model. It's a national model, assertive community treatment. And when somebody has a serious mental illness designation, the highest level of care that behavioral health, county behavioral health can respond with is an ACT level team. And so that's considered wraparound case management with, whatever it takes mentality. I've been learning more about the ACT program because the ACT program, people who are engaged in the care court process are receiving case management from a county contractor that is doing the ACT model with the respondents for care court. And the ACT model is very interesting in that I haven't been able to find yet any disability rights considerations for the ACT model nationwide. How to incorporate the Americans with Disabilities Act reasonable modification into the ACT model. So what you see, essentially what I'm recognizing is that the ACT model way of doing things may in some ways like have some fundamental contradictions with how best practices around advocating and accommodating a person with a disability. And then also noticing that once again, there's not that formal ADA reasonable modification engagement process. So like when my client, not my client, sorry, it's so hard, client patient responded. So I am a identified supporter for a respondent in care court. And just noticing that, when the language comes up of how can I make a formal request for reasonable modification under the Americans with Disabilities Act? Do you have a form? Who can I send it to? There's not anything intact where somebody knows what I'm talking about and they say, oh, here's the form, we'll send it to you, this is our process. And so just really, again, like how can we as a group impact that intact ADA engagement process in behavioral health services on a countywide level? And is that something that we can come together on and bring forth to the Board of Supervisors who are really looking for boards, committees, and commissions to give feedback back to them you know, about care court and SB 43. So part of the engagement with lived experience around disability rights and behavioral health can happen here in this room. By us coming together, looking at the disability rights considerations and then giving our feedback, whether it's to go speak or write a letter, or however we want to reach out to our supervisors and maybe the community. If anyone has any questions?
I do. I'm wondering if it's terminology. Because I know, I heard Todd refer to the reasonable accommodation process, which typically happens, in a job situation where you modify something for that person that's needed, and it is an interactive process. Or, and it's maybe and or, I'm wondering if it's just in the case with services and supports, modifications. So if it's a modification in how something is delivered, I'm not sure that's. I don't know. I'm wondering if it should be called reasonable accommodation or just, I need a modification here.
Yeah, I found that no matter what language I use, I've tried every possible version, but I'd be more than willing to try any version that you want to teach me. I'm totally open-minded here, but I'm just finding that there isn't somebody who identifies on the other end of the line that their job is, or they know whose job it is to engage in the process. And it's just, you know, brick wall.
Yeah, so you need a process, you want a process,
Yeah.
you're asking for a process
Correct.
with a person.
Correct. And
This is
you-
for AIS, for Aging and Independent
No,
Services.
this is just in
Endure.
in general, but this is something that's being highlighted in the behavioral health service, because we're looking at things like mobile crisis response team, alternatives to incarceration, crisis stabilization units, right? And within those, and the ACT program, within those models, there is not a robust ADA engagement process happening. It's not
Okay.
formalized, and most of the time, doesn't matter how you try to communicate it, you're saying it for the first time to the person on the other end.
So one good thing to do is, and you've done it before, for your particular encounters, is to deal with that in that particular situation, and then to be able to bring that, because it's difficult to be able to address broad inadequacies, if you will. But if there are specifics around this particular program, this particular encounter that I had, and then bring some attention to that, and we can then do more around that particular program, service, or activity. But understanding that broadly, the county, and we are talking about county services, programs, and activities, are responsible for ensuring that we've got accessibility, and hopefully baked into our processes. And so where there aren't, you can bring it to my attention, and then I'll be able to help get the right people in contact, get in contact with the right folks.
Yes, I mean, I think you know that how hard it is for me to do the follow through. I don't know if anybody here saw the Netflix Unbelievable, but when I watched it, I cried so hard, a special kind of cry, because I am legitimately victimized. Since I learned what it means to be, what my rights and responsibilities are around being a disabled person, and I've been empowered by my medical and support team to say no when something feels like it's going to be unsafe or potentially trigger a medical or mental health problem. And saying no, oftentimes, the no is like no to this because this is like, you want me to do something that can cause me medical harm. And so then the next thing my team and I learned was the reasonable modification process. And okay, if this is not going to be safe and I can't fully participate, then, you know, and then learning how to ask for what you need,
Sure.
right? Which is so terribly difficult too.
Yeah, it's not
But
easy.
I'm now 20 years in, the first 10 I was helpless. The next 5, I started to get a sense for my role, my rights and responsibilities. And the last 5 have been nothing but abuse. Because the more I stay clear in what my rights are and I like non-aggressively communicate them through the formal processes that I've now become forced to become a subject matter expert on, the retaliation and the resentment that I experience and how many times I'm told that now I'm the disruption or I'm the problem. And been forced into unsafe situations, like this, it's not just me. This is not just happening to me. And I know that I can't necessarily express, I can't write a memo every single day about the multiple things that happened to me that day. Like right now, I'm focused on 3 things that me and my support team believe were legitimate crimes and how to even navigate potentially trying to even file a report without that being traumatized. So I can't like send a memo every time I come across something, but I do feel like it's so pervasive and it is recognized beyond just my voice. It's something that's vocalized by lived experience, homeless advocates at every city and county meeting. It's something that's, you know, being, you know, really recognized and expressed in other boards, committees, and commissions. And I feel like at some point, the county can start looking at, okay, maybe we need to put together a task force and start calling around as if we are the disabled client and start conversations off with every third-party contractor of, hi, I am a person with a disability. I'd like to make a reasonable modification request. And the person on the other line not knowing how to facilitate that. Like, I would like this to be a higher level priority for the county where they do the grunt work that the people with disabilities are like doing by trying to exist and are suffering to do.
Got it,
Thank you
got
for
it.
giving me the room to express that. That was a lot.
Well-
It's really, I think, individual advocacy versus systemic. And so I think that what I heard when Todd was responding, and to you too, Jessica, it's a sense of your due diligence, which you're doing great at, and it is really hard. And I don't know that it gets any easier. I have to tell you, I'm old and I don't think it's easier. But then you have champions around you and people that can carry that voice. As Todd internally is an ADA person and then make systemic changes for the whole. So I think that you carry the individual advocacy and then we and the larger group pushes systemic changes.
Don't make me cry.
And one of those, to your point, is to have an initiative, countywide initiative that, so if there is a motion, then that would formalize a statement at least that that the Committee for Persons with Disabilities is requesting some action be taken by the county.
This is a hug committee. I just want you guys to know, if you want a hug, I'm gonna hug you. Sometimes I'll hug you and then I'll forget to ask, cause I forget it. Trying to break the ice, that's all.
Do we have a motion? Can we have a motion about a initiative
Let's figure out how to phrase it.
surrounding these issues that
So-
Jessica so well laid out?
So then
will-
you should be making that motion.
I'm
Because I don't know how to carry me.
No, but we'll carry you by your second.
well, it's something, I don't have it, but it seems something about. Awareness is not a strong enough word, Todd. But it's a sense of understanding the individualized requirements for people with disabilities and the rights that are carried by various disability related policies and laws such as the ADA. It's something like that. Because there's other laws and policies that also kick in. So it's an awareness that is like a requirement. If we were gonna put it in one sentence, I guess I would say that to each of you. One sentence. We want,
Oh,
Every,
complete the sentence is what you.
one sentence, we want the county to. Anybody can speak.
yeah,
Complete the sentence, yeah.
well, I know what I would like the end goal, I would like the county to ensure that every third-party contractor knows what the ADA engagement, what do you call it? What did Todd call it?
Interactive process.
Interactive process is, and who is fulfilling the duties of
Well-
that process or something. Can I get some help here?
It's ADA requirements, and it's that every staff person and contractor
Yes.
and community-based organizations funded by the county have an ADA point person for that program, service, or activity that can,
Facilitate?
yes, the
Engagement.
accommodation and or reasonable modification process.
Amazing.
Don't make me restate.
I hear a little taper typer over there, I hope you got it.
It is recorded.
It's like giving birth.
My gist, I'm gonna go back to the recording. A motion was made to recommend the county ensure that every third-party contractor and partner has an ADA interactive process and dedicated contact person. I think there's a better way to say that, though.
ADA coordinator
Coordinator, thank you.
and a reasonable process for addressing reasonable accommodation request.
And that could be replicated to all the other counties. So,
Well, it should be replicated across all Title II cities, counties. This is not rocket science. ADA has been in existence for over 30 years, for God's sakes. And people know how to do this.
I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on physical barriers in the civil engineering realm of ADA accessibility, but not nearly as much on the other alternatives like, you know, neurodivergent or mental health or whatever, medically fragile, all the other types of disabilities.
You're right, it's easier. Build a ramp.
It's just me say that.
And I've been utilizing your Jan referral and it is incredible.
It is.
That is a great
Yeah.
resource, great resource.
Not mine.
Yeah.
It was around a long time ago before I.
So we have a motion on the table.
Second.
Carolyn seconds. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Unanimous.
Unanimously passed.
Just the-
Elections.
So, yes. So maybe this is something.
Because you are a candidate, it's not appropriate for you to run the elections.
Oh, does this mean
So-
Susan's running the election?
Well, we'll have staff, we'll have, we'll be able to, thus far, the nominations that we have for, do you have record of the nominations that we have?
I do, the current only nomination for chair is Carolyn Smith. And the current nomination for vice chair is Jeanette Shelton. Are there any additional nominations?
I think 3 times, do we do it 3 times out?
Going once, going twice?
That's the same thing.
Okay, I will do a roll call vote. So I'll call each of you. And I'm going in seat order. For chair, Carolyn Smith, who do you vote for?
Are you asking me or I vote for myself? Thanks.
For chair, Jeanette, who do you vote for?
Carolyn Smith.
Jessica, for chair, who do you vote for?
Carolyn Smith.
And Sue, for chair, who do you vote for?
Carolyn,
And Michelle is absent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for believing in me. I know that when I started here, the concern was I wasn't here long enough and I didn't know how it operated.
You do now.
I do now, but each one of you is just as important to me as myself. So I love working with you. I love working with you and I'm gonna be happy to work alongside you because I don't think we've had that interaction yet.
no.
So I appreciate that, everybody. Thanks for the vote of confidence. That means a lot to me.
Thank you for stepping up.
Thanks.
All right, for vice chair, Carolyn, who do you vote for?
I vote for this lovely woman and I have a TBI and her name literally went out of my brain. So I'm just gonna point. Is that okay?
Yes. for
Okay.
Jeanette
Jeanette,
Shelton.
let the record show that
Thank
she's
you.
pointing to Jeanette Shelton.
Yes. Jeanette, for vice chair, who do you vote for?
Jeanette Shelton.
Jessica, for vice chair, who do you vote for?
Jeanette.
And Sue, for vice chair, who do you vote for?
Jeanette.
Thank you. And Michelle is absent. Congratulations, Jeanette. At the last meeting, there were no nominations for secretary. Would anybody like to make a nomination for secretary? We do not currently have a secretary.
What do they do? Doesn't staff do that?
Currently, yes.
Thus far, but she continues to, at least she tried.
I'm just putting it on the record.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations to the new executive officers. Thank you for stepping up and holding your role and serving.
Terms for 1 year?
Yes.
Yes.
And we covered the Ethics Awareness Fair. Again, that is next Thursday at the County Operations Center. We'll send out more information regarding that. And then any future agenda items under new business?
I would like for us to, even though we're not a fully formed committee, get our feedback back to the district attorney about the draft. I believe that the only feedback we had left was, I thought maybe the figure of the person with their back to us, like at dusk or dawn, could instead be a person that might look like they're experiencing homelessness. I know you gave the feedback about a veteran, which they honored. I don't remember any other feedback besides that. Have you had an opportunity to view any of, I don't think you were here when we did this, but.
I'm searching, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Yeah, so, very long story short, very long story short, we, had an opportunity to meet with Summer Steppen at the district attorney's office. And we gave some feedback on, ways that, people with disabilities could be better recognized and represented and supported. One of those was, there is something that our district attorney's office led that's like a national model for elder and independent adult abuse, called the 2018 Elder Independent Adult Abuse Blueprint. And on the front cover were like 8-ish squares that each square was a person that was a visual representation of, you know, what the elder independent blueprint was, and it was all people of advanced age. And all there was no diversity in the blueprint, especially in terms of invisible disabilities, different ages, different races. And so the DA came forth with an exquisite draft that is one of the highlights literally of my life. And it's so diverse and so thought out.
I think we did see it at the first meeting.
Okay. Okay, so they've asked us to give like our final feedback on that draft. And we just haven't formally done it yet, and I don't know if they're waiting for us, but if we want them to actually finalize the draft in 2024, we should probably get our formal recommendations back to them. One of my other suggestions is potentially putting senior and disability victimization either in addition to or in place of elder and dependent adult abuse. Also, because dependent adult is considered an offensive terminology by the disability community. And so there's been a longstanding and fruitful effort to remove the term dependent adult from all of the materials and replace it with adults with disabilities. So I think we could be, you know, and then also the model policy that is established by Senate Bill 338 on senior and disability justice that all law enforcement agencies should have adopted by now, but most in our county have not. That has on it Senior and Disability Justice Act. So if we want to have something that's going to be forward moving and move into the future and not have to be done over again, it would be great if we could just move into the more respectful terminology right off the bat. And then again, my second suggestion was to take one of the pictures that's very obscure and none of us could really identify like what it meant or what it was, what purpose it was serving, to replace that potentially with somebody that might look, or to replace that with someone that looks like they might be homeless.
Yeah.
Since over 90% of people experiencing homelessness have a qualified disability. Does anyone else have any? And
Well, I honor your recommendations because I think it would be a little step behind to say dependent adult on some sort of thing you're just releasing now. Because they're moving at the state level to get rid of that. Used to be vulnerable, which was even worse, so it, sometimes you can't keep up, but I think they have the capacity to. I think we should do that. I think we should make some recommendation, and I don't know if it's a long report, I haven't looked at it, I can't comment on the whole report.
Yeah, no, we didn't even break into the whole report yet. All we did was just
Look at
work
the
on the
cover.
front. Yeah.
How do we get a copy of that so that we can articulate a better response?
Of the whole report? I think,
Just that we cover mostly with in the terminology of dependent.
Oh, yeah, Todd, if you wanted to send it out, it's a PDF, the 2018 Elder Independent Adult Blueprint. I would love for us to bite into that at some point, but first things first. 2018 Elder Independent Adult Abuse Blueprint, which is like a model district attorney law enforcement type training manual, but it's very heavy in elder abuse. It's got 0 invisible illness. It doesn't go into the misdemeanor penal code 368, which is like not likely to cause great bodily injury. It doesn't go into the other types of abuse that are identified in the law, which is verbal abuse or other actions that cause physical pain or mental suffering. We have no guidance on that, and we could do a great service to the community by working on that this year. But for now, maybe we could just finish what we've started, which is the checklist, which I just need somebody else to turn it into a usable document. Send it to me.
Or
Like
actually,
maybe,
maybe send it to all of us.
well, I can't really send it because I kind of need somebody to make it out of my brain. I've been trying this whole time to turn it into a document and send it, and I've been not able to, and I don't want to hold this up anymore, so.
So do you have it in like some sort of bullet point, or it's all in there?
I'm sure
So
I've
you
written
need
it down
somebody to
other places.
put it down on
Yeah,
the document.
where it won't get lost. Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna volunteer to type, but, can you dictate?
I just have trouble completing tasks in general, and then by the time I complete the task, I've lost track of where it is.
Yeah.
I'm just really struggling in
Yeah.
that department.
So you need an assistant to help you do that.
That would be, that's the dream.
So for me, with a traumatic brain injury, I use my notes section on my phone every day, all day, and then if you can start laying that down, I could take that and make it something.
And that's something we're working on, and I did get tutoring. I am getting ongoing tutoring. They extended it for me through IHSS Aging and Independence on these technologies, and I am getting better, but I'm still not organized enough. And I'm so.
I don't need the organization, but like if you just throw up on a piece of paper and I'll put it
Right.
together.
So like all I need to do is literally talk into my notes and then send you the notes.
And then
Just give it
I'll
process.
Bingo.
yeah. And that doesn't, and so however you do it, cause like
Well, I
I'll
have to
collect,
talk now
yeah,
because the processing on the screen, I'm done.
right, so that's exactly what I do, so I don't even look at the screen while I'm talking,
Okay.
because that'll interrupt my brain is like a ticker tape. So if anybody has, if you don't have a TBI, this is how my brain works. It is that New York building that has that ticker tape around it, and it goes fast sometimes. And when I interrupt people, it's because that tape is going and I have to tell you something, or I have to wait until it goes all the way around the building. And sometimes that's a week or two later. So I have that same issue. So I have to tell people ahead of time, I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm not rude, I have this cognitive disability that I have to tell you when it comes out or I'm out of luck. So you can just literally whatever, and it doesn't, I'm not gonna judge you for however it looks. Does that-
No, I got you,
understand.
I got you.
So just literally throw it out on notes or voice, whatever, and cause I know how your vision is
Yeah.
already, like I know where you're going with it.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be easy if I just.
Okay, all right, well, that was a good accessibility coordination session.
And does it already exist somewhere? So,
No,
okay, because there's lots of disability type of, I mean,
yes.
there's a ton.
Yeah, so the context for this is the average patrol person of a law enforcement agency does not know, coming upon individuals with disabilities, that person has a qualified disability and therefore should be considered through the lens of Penal Code 368, for instance. And then there seems to be some pushback if somebody identifies themselves as qualifying for that. That can be perceived, and this is direct from various law enforcement people, as suspicious, as maybe I'm being retaliatory because I'm trying to get somebody charged with a crime. The head of the Elder Independent Adult Abuse Unit for our county's district attorney's office told me that was very strange for me to do, and he can understand why I get a negative response. Well, the question then is, if I'm not saying it and they don't know it, and the fact that I have a service dog and an ADA safety plan and a Take Me Home registry doesn't trigger it to be so, what would? And the idea is just a basic checklist that's as inclusive as we can come up, that the DA can provide guidance to their own internal team and prosecutors, as well as to all of the law enforcement agencies, because they do so much of the training, where they can say, if you are unsure, look here. You know, and there may be some training in that where, you know, you don't necessarily ask all these questions, but you're listening for the cues. Oh, my IHS caregiver did blah, blah, blah. Or my disabled placard, or, you know, I have somebody that I get an accommodation when I go to the grocery store. Like, there are so many key words that could be triggered by this checklist that the average patrol person could go, oh, maybe this person has an invisible disability.
So have you looked at the trainings that have already been done? Because they've done a lot of trainings for police officers for developmental and intellectual disability.
Yes.
I know there's trainings out there for people with autism, and I believe there's trainings for people that are deaf.
Yeah, I've studied every single one, as well as every police manual, dispatch manual that I've been able to consume. And there is absolutely no general checklist or subsection on how to recognize somebody with an invisible disability.
So do we still have law enforcement on?
No.
No. God, that would've been crazy.
So, but it's not just for law enforcement. Or it is.
Well, in this case, because we're working on the sheriff's within our ordinance, within our
Purview.
charter, or our committee business, we were allowed to focus on the district attorneys and the sheriffs, but not all law enforcement and not all,
Oh,
right? So
okay,
we've been focused on the sheriff and the district attorney.
got it. So we're gonna continue that for the future, because that's the topic of this conversation.
Yeah.
So that's our future agenda.
It has been an ongoing priority. I believe we did make it one of our 2024 priorities, and definitely would like to continue it, but we haven't finished our feedback to the DA's office, which included these two things: our feedback on the cover of the blueprint and our version of what an all-inclusive disability checklist might look like for the DA to help give guidance to the sheriffs and other law enforcement agencies. Does that all add up for everybody? Todd, is that sound?
I heard something about, the committee was allowed to focus on
Like, we couldn't,
sheriff and
and
DA.
DA, but we can't
I'm not-
focus on other like our committee can't sit here and make rules for all the law enforcement agencies in the county. We can only advise on the sheriffs, because that's within our.
County, any county.
Right,
Yes,
Maybe some
exactly.
city, yeah.
And I will add this, I think my unique perspective, being law enforcement, coming from law enforcement in the military. It would be so great to have a checklist, a quick pull-out checklist. Because in all the duties that I ever had in law enforcement, the easiest way for me to remember the 900,000 things I had to remember was little key checklist that I had. So if we can make that and put that through the chain.
Yeah.
Coming from my perspective in that enforcement arena,
Yeah,
it's so much easier.
Yeah, well, I think that's what other people thought when they did the autism trainings and when they did the developmental and intellectual developmental disability trainings. And so I always think it's easier to borrow things rather than invent. It's consistency for law enforcement, so they're not getting, well, here's what you should think about for people with, there's a zillion disabilities. And that makes it harder for everybody, they kind of groan, but it's important, so I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying, gee, is there anything we could borrow or steal out there to aid in the rapid and then to convince people, hey, this is already being done.
yeah. One place we did build from a little bit is that I used my experience in the courts getting a dependent adult restraining order. So when you go to the courts, you can get a regular civil harassment restraining order, you can get a domestic violence restraining order, you can get an elder or dependent adult restraining order. And when I did that, I wrote in my petition to the judge, I am asking for a dependent adult restraining order. I qualify because I have a handicap placard, I have a full-time in-home support services, I have a medically required service animal. This is where the list started coming from, was me justifying to the courts why I would qualify for that restraining order, and I did in fact get that restraining order. But when the conversations happen with myself, with law enforcement, or people that I advocate, or other friends of mine with disabilities, especially invisible disabilities, but not just invisible disabilities, there's problems with visible disabilities as well, but there is an automatic, no, you don't qualify for protections under penal codes. As opposed to if you are 65 or older, the mere what is your date of birth and how old are you triggers a PC 368 lens. And even at the dispatch level, if someone who calls in and says, I think my neighbor might be abusing my mom, dispatch sends out a dispatch code, PC 368. If you call and say, I think someone's abusing my disabled brother, it goes out as potential assault or something like that. So I'm definitely not trying to invent things from square one. I couldn't agree with you more. Anything we can borrow and any best practices we can build off of. And I'd love if you have any interest in Googling while we're apart. I would love that, but right now.
Or
I just
using
have-
artificial intelligence.
Yes, that's-
I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. That's it. AI in trash.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you guys remember anything else that we had to give feedback back to the DA's office of, for other than the blueprint and the qualifying checklist?
There were questions, some follow-up questions. We were looking for any follow-up questions that you all had
Yeah.
to be able to provide that to
So
the.
maybe they could provide us that. They said that the district attorneys reported back to us that they had trained a large amount of their internal staff in things like invisible disability. I don't know if I think we did maybe ask for this before, but I don't know what happened. Can we see the training?
So the request from district attorney was if the committee will pull together the things that they would like to know, to receive updates on, then we can provide that to the district attorney. So that can be one of those.
So are we gonna agendize for the next meeting, finishing up our communications with the district attorney, or finishing the next step in our relationship with
You know, my question almost,
Wrapping up what we've already started.
my question almost on that is, can we bring summer seconds back in?
I think we talked about that meeting before last.
Because time has elapsed, things may have progressed that none of us know about. We may be able to distill it down more.
Well, can we get what our feedback back to them and then have another meeting?
I think
That's,
it's important to out of respect to people when they come already. And then they ask for input or more questions or more clarifications, that we provide that.
Before we ask.
Before we
anything,
ask
yeah,
them, you know,
I agree.
it makes us look tacky, I think, to not sort of respond appropriately.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think I'd like that anchored too, because I thought I heard somebody else was gonna be scheduled to come. Well, just today, we talked about.
we've said that,
I-
we've said that we wanted to have the district attorney to come and present an update. And one of the items to help them know what the committee wants to hear about is what are the questions that the committee has.
Yeah.
And so I received questions, I think, from, one person at least. So if those are the questions, what I can do is I can send those questions back out to the committee. And then if there are additional questions, then we can receive those and provide those to the district attorney's office. I'm not certain that it will be the district attorney that will respond back, but we'll be able to get a response and then potentially have a speaker.
Okay, so do we have for the next meeting on an agenda item to make sure we all have the feedback that's going to go to the district attorney's office?
Well, that can be done off agenda, but sure, and then we can have agenda that says, these are the questions. Are there any additional?
And
Make sure it all looks good and then they go out.
yeah, and then maybe add to that, that everybody provides a new question, 'cause it's been a while. Right,
Yeah.
so not just looking at the old questions, come back and provide your own question if you have one.
Okay,
So is this qualifying a disability checklist part of that? And are we gonna have something we can actually give feedback to at the next meeting?
yes, that's what I was thinking could be included in that agenda item for the next meeting. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think we need to sort of move on stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me, I'm new and then I missed it right away and I apologize, but yeah, I think do a few things and do them well. And I think it gives us credibility.
Yes.
Okay. Any other future agenda items or new business?
What are we gonna? What are we gonna do about we got the motion about the, what we wanted, our desire for the county, on the ADA coordinator issue.
So I will inform the Department of Procurement and Contracting that the Committee for Persons with Disabilities is requesting that this an assessment of contractors be done, and then we'll get back from the department what their perspectives are on it.
So that will be a presentation, or they'll just respond to you in writing or?
Depends on, I'll see what their response is, and then if they say, oh, well, that's a great idea, or if they say, we'd like to understand more about the needs, so then I'll invite them to come. So it's pretty fluid as
Yeah,
to
of course.
what the next steps
That's
would be.
good. I like that. I like that approach and we won't forget about it because it'll be somewhere, right? Like, you know, I forget about stuff. Like that letter we sent out and who was gonna sign it and that went to somebody about something and we don't need to do anything more about that, do we?
Well, there'll be
Procedures.
in the procedures, so that's, if there are certain things that need to be in the bylaws,
Yeah,
then definitely
yeah.
provide.
yeah. And
Any
did we have other
recommendations?
things that were from last year when I wasn't here about that should be carried over for 2024?
The answer is yes. There's a lot of different things, housing. There's been the housing blueprint, the input on housing is just one.
And I read that. I was very interested in that. That's a huge need.
They took accessibility out of it. I don't know if you
No,
caught that.
not surprised, but
I don't know if they took it
I
out.
think they put
This
it,
wasn't in there.
Did they have it in?
Yeah, I don't think they had it
thanks
in the
for-
first place.
oh, thanks for clarifying. I don't know who they are either, so my apologies. to
The
them.
crafters,
Yes,
crafters of the blueprint.
yes.
well, I would like, when we get sort of through this phase, I would like to, right, I would like to dig into housing, some housing stuff. I mean, you know, it's huge for people with disabilities, huge.
And I'll add my own, because you may not know this, but I lost my, Hurricane Hillary. I lost my entire house to Hurricane Hillary,
Oh my God.
the whole thing. It's down to the studs. So, I have insurance, but because the president didn't declare a state of emergency, it opens no funding. There's no funding at any of the protected levels that I sit in, the veteran status and the disabled status. $0 state, federal, state, local, $0, because there's no declaration. So my insurance is maxed out and I have to pay more than a third for the replace. And I lost all my personal goods, I lost everything. So the effect of housing for me is that now I pay out of pocket almost $6,000 a month to have a place to live, because the housing is so bad that once you go through the Airbnb, so you don't have to set up new services and whatnot. But it is so bad that there are houses, 2 bedroom, 3 bath, that are charging $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 a month. Because we need housing. I'm either
Yeah.
homeless or I need to be housed. And we all have these, especially as a disabled person, we all have these very unique challenges that, well, I can't be in this because of this, or I can't be in. My insurance tried to set me up in an ADU where I was in the ADU and a random man was in the house, and I was like, that's how you end up on Dateline. Right? And right? And then my insurance was like, oh, okay, no problem, we got another location. So it was me living in the house and then a random man living in the ADU out back, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the exact same scenario.
Yeah.
And that was all they had,
You don't
and that was out
understand.
in Chula Vista. And my home is Lake James, East County. And I was like, so how do I get there every day? I'm disabled, I'm 100% disabled, all of these things. So housing to me is so personal right now because of everything is paying out of pocket to me right now. So it is so bad that I'd love to make housing a priority, and not just for the veteran space, because I advocate for that space, but it is so bad now. And all those people that have storm damage, the only proclamation from the Board of Supervisors, the 4-0 proclamation, I think it was a couple days ago, is only for January and today, disaster. So those that were affected of anything before, like me, 0. And there's no disabled or better exception, because they've already asked. They said, no, we can't do it. Where are we gonna get the money from?
That's all.
And if we, and the gentleman said, well, if we do it for you, we're gonna do it for everybody. It's like, well, okay, no more protected
Yeah.
classes, right? You know, so, housing is important.
Anything else?
Just like the dream team. And those who didn't join us today.
All right, let's adjourn.
We need a little.
Recording?
Do you want a gavel? Is that what you want?
I was like, well, I was trying to pull